तो कैसे हैं आप लोग? So today we'll learn section 11 of TP Act, that is restriction repugnant to interest created. So now first let's see the section what it says. Where on a transfer of property an interest therein is created absolutely in favor of any person, but the terms of the transfer direct that such interest shall be applied or enjoyed by him in a particular manner. He shall be entitled to receive and dispose of such interest as if there was no such direction. That means he will get the property transferred, and if he will ignore the direction as if there was no such direction. So now let's see the ingredients of the section. First, there should be transfer of property. Interest in that property should be created absolutely in favor of a person. This is important, absolutely. Terms of the transfer should direct that such interest shall be applied or enjoyed by him in a particular manner. So these are the three ingredients of the section. This section and section 10 both rest on the same principle that a condition repugnant to the interest created is void. So now let's see the illustrations. Firstly, suppose A gifted a property to B. The gift was made absolutely. There was a direction made by A that B should reside in the property. The gift is valid, whereas the direction is void. In another illustration, suppose A made a gift to B. The condition was gift will be forfeited if B does not reside in the property. The condition will be valid because it was not absolute. In the first case it was an absolute gift, but in the second case it was not absolute. That's why the condition was valid. Third illustration, suppose A assigns a life interest in a farm to B for her maintenance. The deed contains a direction that B shall not cut down the trees. The condition will be valid because it's not absolute. So what is this absolute interest? Section 11 does not apply unless the transferor creates an absolute interest in the transferee. So it does not apply, for instance, to a lease which a transfer of a limited interest and the lessee is bound by the conditions and covenants expressed or implied in the lease restricted the mode of enjoyment. That means in lease there is no absolute interest created, that's why it will be not applicable to section 11. So now let's see the exception to section 11 that is contained in second paragraph of it, that is where any such direction has been made in respect of one piece of immovable property for the purpose of securing the beneficial enjoyment of another piece of such property. That means there are two properties. Nothing in this section shall be deemed to affect any right which the transferor may have to enforce such direction or any remedy which he may have in respect of a breach thereof. That means the exception made by the second paragraph is a recognition of the rule that the transferor may impose conditions restraining the enjoyment of land if such restrictions are for the benefit of any adjoining land. Now let's see an example. Suppose there are two properties X and Y. A transfers property X to B. X is transferred. Y is not transferred, but Y is the adjoining land to the X. So here A can impose conditions on X restraining the enjoyment of the land X if such restrictions are for the benefit of his adjoining land Y. That means for the benefit of his adjoining land Y, he can put restrictions on X. So this is the exception of section 11. So now let's see the leading case of this section, that is Tulk versus Moxhay. A covenant between seller and buyer of land provided buyer and his assignees shall not use the land in a particular manner. This was the covenant made. So here the question was this covenant enforceable in equity against all the subsequent buyers of that land with the notice of this covenant? That means with the notice of this current covenant, was this covenant enforceable in the case of the subsequent buyers? The court held that yes, it did. So now let's see the differences between section 10 and section 11. In section 10, the transfer may be of any kind and the restriction is absolute, whereas in section 11 the transfer is absolute whereas the restriction may be of any kind. Transfer may be absolute, like examples are sale, gift, exchange. Under section 10 the restriction is on the right of alienation, whereas in section 11 The restriction is on right of enjoyment. So under section 10, the enforcement of the restriction against purchases from the transferee. But under section 11, the enforcement of restrictions is against the transferee. So this is all about section 11. Hope you all will like it.